Hello, and here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Geoff Wilson Show, a special episode because I'm sitting here on the show floor of the National. It's the last day of the National. The National is about to wrap up, and I brought on a very special guest. He is perhaps the most interesting man in the hobby. Brian Gray from Leaf Cards is always one of the most opinionated with many of the best takes on the state of the hobby. And he's been here all week at the National, along with me and, of course, tens of thousands of others, taking it all in. I'm super curious to hear Brian's thoughts on the National, on the current state of the hobby, on the future of the hobby, and the future of the National, and maybe what it means for Leaf and the other manufacturers. There's so much happening right now in the hobby, and we're about to break it all down over the next 30 to 40 minutes.
I'm feeling good.
Brian, welcome to the Geoff Wilson Show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I love what you guys do and what you represent. And it really is what we're seeing here at this show. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. So let's start with that, right? This is, I know you've been to obviously a bunch of Nationals. This, I think there was a little nervousness maybe, and you referenced this when we talked earlier. There's a little nervousness perhaps going into this one in the fact that we weren't, we weren't sure about how the state of the hobby, prices declining for the last couple of years, how that would perhaps affect attendance or enthusiasm or that kind of thing. And we've seen, though, well, you describe it. What have you seen?
Well, here's what I see. First off, the attendance is insane. The engagement, like people buying, like there's activity. It's not just people come and say, oh, look at this baseball card industry. It's kind of interesting. The prices have lured some people back in and made it interesting to them. And I think just the general excitement around the category is unreal. The room was hot the first few days, which was crazy, but it was hot also because there were a ton of people here.
Right.
And I think just the level of we couldn't even walk up to tables. We didn't even bother trying to buy for 2 days. Too many people at every table. We couldn't walk up and engage. There were so many people. So I think if you came in here nervous or concerned that the market was softer, it's in price only, which is important. That's when I'm not worried about an industry or a market, is when price is the only thing you have to worry about. When liquidity is still really good, and when you see it actually get better with lower prices, that's good. That's a business I want to be in. What I don't like is declining prices, declining volume, lack of interest. Those are bad signs. What I saw here was very good. And I think these pullbacks that you reference, they're healthy.
They are healthy.
Straight up usually results in straight down.
And it did.
And it did. Any great stock chart, if you look at stock, I hate to compare to stocks, but when you do, ups and downs are part of a long-term trend that's sustainable. And I see those things here, and not to be a chartist, but I don't mind the setup here. The setup's really good. We've seen prices to show people what potential really was, and now we have a chance to get there in an orderly fashion instead of a disorderly fashion, and people can buy and actually get assets or collectibles along the way and actually participate. When it went straight up, you couldn't buy. As fast as you bought, the prices went up so much you sold, or you couldn't get the asset because it left you. Now you have time to really accumulate and be thoughtful about what you're buying. This is a great setup. It really is. I'm not saying we're going to see those old prices again anytime soon, but you don't have to.
It's almost better not to see those old prices again.
You don't have to see them.
If we get back to those prices, you want to see it 5 or 10 years from now so we can build towards those prices. We don't want to. I don't want to see the hockey stick back up again. I don't, because as you said, the hockey stick up is going to be followed by perhaps another crash period.
It was fun though.
It was fun.
It was crazy.
Oh, it was fun.
Roller coasters are really fun until you're at the top. And even if it's fun coming down, what if you look down and some of the track is missing? That's what we were on. We were on a roller coaster where you didn't see it go down and go back up. You're like, oh, I'm going to be fine. It's going to go back up in a minute. No, you don't know where the track is, or it's dark and it's not lit up. You don't know what's coming. And so it wasn't that much fun. The good news again, we went down a little fast, which is good. I'd rather get it over with. Even if we lose some people in the process, which I hate seeing, when the market softens like that really fast, at least you get it over with. So now we bottomed. We're back on the road to recoveries. Assets have started to firm up in some places. I feel good about it. And this show, I felt way better coming away from here than coming into here, no doubt about it.
Attendance has been great. There's been a ton of transactions taking place. every dealer I've talked to has been happy at this show. I've talked to some dealers who are like, I'm basically sold out of inventory. You know, I don't even know how it is set up on Sunday because I have so few cards left. And so that kind of stuff's really encouraging.
What a great
to hear.
problem. I mean,
what a great problem to have.
It's a great problem. So this was very encouraging.
Yeah, this was definitely encouraging. I agree. And you know, one of the things that gives me so much hope about the future of the sports card market, I said this a couple of times, is despite everything dropping hard in price and a lot of people losing money on cards they bought and they've gone down in value. Despite that, there's still our content, you know, the consumption of our content is as hot as it can be. People are still coming to this show. We're still setting a big time attendance numbers at shows like this all over the country, not just the National. And I said, imagine anything else in life where you got kicked for 2 straight years and you're losing money and you're getting beat up, but you're still as enthusiastic to go back the next day and do it than ever before. But that's been largely what the card collecting community has gone through for the last 2 years, yet it's still this strong and it's still this good. So imagine if we are actually at a point of stability and we're actually at a point of starting to grow again, which I believe we are, then imagine what that's going to look like healthy growth combined with the level of enthusiasm that we have today. I just think that is like the winning formula, and I think we're getting into that territory right now. I'm really excited to see what this next 5 years is going to be like.
Yeah, no, and again, the one factor that we haven't even talked about is, you know, I've talked to the Fanatics guys, and we are very aligned on one principle, which is we're going to grow the addressable market for trading cards. And so when you factor in, we're making cards of cornhole, pickleball, influencers like Livy Dunn, because we realize that there are millions and millions and millions and millions of people who've never bought a card. And at Leaf, and I know at Fanatics, the goal is to create collectibles that will get people to try a trading card for the first time. And if we're successful and they're successful in growing the addressable market, that makes the setup even more beautiful. Because long term, if the pool of buyers goes from 2 million to 10 million, or 15 million, even if they're less mature buyers who have to learn and take time to ramp up, we think the addressable market size could create a level of interest and liquidity that we didn't see the first time we shot through the roof irrationally. This could be a really good setup long term, and that's why I think it's so critical that they continue to do what they're doing and investing in the space and finding their spots, and that we do what we can do, which is come up with incredibly creative content that is just so different than anything anyone else makes. However we get there, I think the addressable market growing is going to be the one factor that is left out of that equation that could end up being a game changer.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea of 10Xing this thing, right?
You
got to figure out a way to get all the new people
Me and Ruben
in.
both agree. 10X is possible.
Yeah.
It sounds insane, but it is actually possible. But it's a road.
Yeah.
Buy your first card and embrace that cards have value. Once you jump over that hurdle, then it's just time, experience, learning.
Yep.
And again, they're investing in education. We're investing in education. We're going the right way. This is a positive environment we're in, even though some people are nervous.
Right.
They're nervous. This Fanatic's going to change what I'm comfortable with. Well, guess what? The first day of school, you didn't feel very comfortable.
Yeah.
You ended up okay. You know, there's a lot of times in your life you go through transition.
And Fanatics will change what a lot of people are used to, for sure. It's going to change some of the economic models of this. It's going to change the economic model for card shops, for breakers, for a lot of different things. But if the overall addressable market grows significantly, there is tons of opportunity and tons of money to be made.
Tons.
It may just mean you got to go about your business a little differently than you have the last 40 years.
And even if you're not an investor and you're a collector or whatever, just think about this, the addressable community.
Yeah.
Like if you're in this for community and you're in this for things that are not money driven, the addressable community, the addressable friendships you can build, 10X, the number of people you can now interact with, your community has grown 10X potentially. You're not in some little minority of people. You're becoming part of a movement, if that's possible.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Not just from an investor standpoint, but from a collector standpoint.
I was sitting with Stephanie Garcia from Mama Breaks last night at dinner, and you know, we were kind of talking about where the industry is and where, you know, her business, you know, being in breaking, and she's seeing explosive growth right now, and where she should take her business and all this type of thing. And I looked at her at one point, and we were both kind of talking about all these possibilities and everything. And I looked at her at one point and I said, I really feel like we're still on the ground level right now of something that is about to get much bigger than what either of us can currently imagine. I still believe that. And I know that's weird to say because we're at an event that there's, 100,000 people at the National or close to it. And so, that we've already got on our YouTube hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Your company's got millions of people who are buying your products. So it's already a big market. But I still believe that if everyone plays their cards right, and who knows what will happen, but if Fanatics does what they say they're going to do, if you continue to do what you're going to do, if others continue to do what they say and think they're going to do, that we are actually still just on the ground floor of something that's going to become much, much bigger than any of us can imagine potentially in the next 5 to 10 years.
And it's hard to think about the ground floor 40 or 50 years into a business.
Yeah, it is actually.
But
it is.
Again, you crawl before you walk, before you run, before you sprint. And we started sprinting before we really knew how to walk.
Yeah, that is true.
And so now we're going to have to retrain our body how to do this the right way and the healthy way, kind of like a batter with bad habits. Sometimes you have to break it down and forget everything you've learned and start over and relearn how to do this. We're going to relearn how to do this.
Yeah.
And some guys won't be along for the ride because they're immune to change and stubborn, or they're not flexible, or they can't pivot. But you've heard me talk. I preach pivot all the time because pivot is going to be the future of this industry. If you can't pivot, you can't play here. It's just a reality on the business side anyway.
Yeah.
As a collector, the beauty is you call your own shots.
Yeah.
You don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't buy. You buy what you like.
Yeah. 100%. All right. I want to talk more about Leaf in a couple of minutes because I think your business model is really interesting. We're going to talk about that. But first, we are here at the National and talk about, we're talking about how this thing could grow or how the industry could grow at all these levels. But the National itself, can it support it? Like, what does this thing need to look like in the next few years? Now you got Fanatics who just launched their new events company, which in some ways may end up going head-to-head against the National. How do you think this looks or needs to look here in the future?
I think the National has a challenge, and that's that it's not really owned by anyone. Like, it's kind of owned by the deal. Like, there's some real – it's very confusing. It's kind of like, who owns the National? Well, no one. Well, someone clearly owns it because there's a business here, obviously. But no one owns it. For anything to change, the dealers and the board have to vote on it. It's been a very stodgy process. And the board is mainly older hobbyists, not the new era of hobbyists. I think a few new hobbyists ran for the first time this year. When I tried to run, they kind of discouraged me because, they weren't ready for the kind of change that I would probably push for. But the reality is it's very slow to change, the National. And I think Fanatics events, that's probably your National. Whether it's next year or the year after, I personally think they should go head-to-head next year, same weekend. Pick a better city, a city where you actually pay for the convention hall instead of getting it free.
You think Fanatics events should go head-to-head against the National?
If they go head-to-head, we will be at Fanatic events.
Wow.
Because I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Oh, boy,
they're going to
Brian.
pour. I'm just telling you honestly, they're going to pour money in this thing in a way that, and again, it's not a Fanatics commercial. Maybe I'm drinking a little bit of Kool-Aid, but I believe that if you go there, it'll feel more like FanFest. And there'll still be dealers, but there will be, and hardcore dealers.
Yep.
But you'll have a room where you can kick field goals, throw baseballs.
Yes.
How is the Cubs World Series trophy not here?
Yeah.
How is that not in this room?
Yeah. Yeah.
Major miss.
How are there
Major miss.
Yeah.
How do we not have 2,000 little kids running around in the next hall instead of like those last 100 tables you sold? Kicking field goals, running 40s with a clock, keeping their speed.
Yeah.
How are we not getting fans who've never bought a card in this room?
Correct.
This room is not conducive to people who have never bought a card. It's just not. Now, with that being said, the National has a rich history and heritage. This is my 33rd straight National to be set up at. I have set up at 33 straight Nationals.
That's incredible.
I don't feel that old, but since I was a kid, 18 years old. I love this show. It means a lot to me. This is like my one highlight a week I look forward to. But I preach pivot. I preach change. And if you're not prepared to reinvent the wheel and to totally blow your people's mind with how you think, you're going to get left behind. We're in a different world.
Yeah.
We're in an AI, think of things that were never possible things. I make cards with Lionel Messi strolling down the beach in Miami wearing sunglasses when he never did that, using AI. We made a card of Joe Biden sleeping at his desk. We make cards that don't exist. We make pictures of things that never happen because you have to use wild imagination. And I don't know that we're showing wild imagination. We are using a very boxed trade show formula here. And that allows you to have a very boxed trade show result.
Yeah.
And I think these guys, again, is it all talk? We're going to find out. But if they can execute the vision, this is a different game.
Yeah.
But again, the problem is the national board needs young, wild, creative thinkers to say, we've got to be different.
That's
the
the
problem
biggest
is,
thing.
I don't know if you've walked up to like the booths at the very front door. The average guy there is 70 years old and has not opened a box of cards in 35 years, 30 years, since 1990 tops. They haven't opened a box of cards. And that's who's controlling the vote of these events. Sometimes not everything has to be a democracy. And the greatest change in the world a lot of times happens from a bold thinker, whether it's Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, Gates. Think of the great Buffett, Michael Rubin. I'm telling you, the great thinkers boldly do what you have to do. Sometimes facing adversity, and I face my fair share of people who say, this guy's a lunatic. But I don't really care because I'm going to be remembered because I do whatever it takes to be wildly creative, prove people wrong, and that sometimes you have to be a bold visionary and just do it.
Yeah.
And people may not like it, but you'll learn.
Yeah.
They may not like unlicensed, but more and more people are looking and saying, oh, crap, my 1981 Joe Montana rookie card is not licensed. People don't realize Topps didn't have a license. My Staubach rookie,
I saw your post
my Bradshaw
about
rookie,
the other day on Twitter.
my Dorsett rookie, all of those cards are unlicensed. And when Panini loses the licenses in 2 years, you think people are going to quit buying Flawless and Immaculate and Treasures? No, they're going to buy them unlicensed. And once they start buying those brands unlicensed, that mindset's going to change. So I decided 10 years ago to be way ahead of the curve and make unlicensed high quality because there will be a day where people have changed their collecting habits. They're going to change. Same thing with this show. You've got to be bold and visionary and put it out there. And when you do that, and you're right, it will work out even if the public doesn't realize you're right. And I think it's time for someone to take on the established cookie cutter because I don't want to live in a cookie cutter world.
Yeah.
I want to live in this bold world change that we're experiencing. Everywhere outside this building, all the bets are off and all the rules are changing. But in this building, we're not ready to embrace change, and it's time.
Brian, you just said a lot of really poignant things. You just said a lot of things I really agree with. I'm really happy you said them instead of me because if I said them, I'd probably get a hell of a lot of crap. You're probably going to get a lot of crap from older dealers, but you probably
I love
don't.
them.
You don't
These
care.
are my friends. I was
care.
a dealer with
right.
them.
Well, yeah, you're right.
And
right.
I'll tell them you're
right.
awesome. I'll tell them you're awesome.
Right.
But you can't, just like we can't ignore the past.
Yes.
We can't ignore the now.
Well, the structure of the National will hold it back. The fact that there is the board, all that type of thing. Like even like for example, I talked to a lot of people at the National, people attending, asking the question, while I was here this time, what's the number one thing you would improve? I was just curious to hear what people said. And the number one thing I heard repeatedly by far was organization of the show floor so that different types of dealers are grouped together, or the same types of dealers are grouped together. I heard from a whole bunch of soccer collectors. We can't find any soccer because there's one table over there, one table over there, one back there, one back there, one back there, and one over there that have soccer cards, but they're all spread out in this sea of vintage baseball and whatever. And then I've heard from modern football. I want my dealers which have more modern football grouped together. This type, but they're not. They're everywhere and anywhere, which means they're kind of nowhere. You can't find them. But the problem is because of how the National has done their selection of booths forever, which is a system based on how long you've been a dealer for, then you get the first selection if you got the longest tenure of being a dealer at the National. And then they're going to pick the booths by the aisleways and everything back. It creates absolutely zero organization. So it probably will always forever be that way. The only way it wouldn't be that way is if all the dealers actually agreed, okay, we're willing to sacrifice our own booth location, which we've earned over the last 40 years, in order to actually make the National have a better experience for all. They're never going to agree to do that. Therefore, the National will never be progressive in that area. And the first time Fanatics Events comes out with an event that has all the things you just talked about, all the fan experiences, plus has their show floor actually well organized by different types of dealers, imagine if there were signs from the ceiling which actually said football, baseball, basketball, and I know some dealers do multiple.
But it could be a mini. You could have mini. It's like the concept Ron Johnson had for JCPenney's. It didn't work. You could do that here, though. You could have mini shows within the show.
Sure.
For categories.
Tickets.
The ticket convention that got canceled down the street.
Where's collectible
could have
tickets?
been in this room.
Where's collectible tickets?
You could have had the 15 leading dealers in an area.
Yeah.
And that would have been like the go-to place to buy tickets.
Memorabilia over there. Put, vintage baseball memorabilia. Art. Art and displayables. Put that over there because that's a whole category here. Put it all together and put it right there, But again,
wax. What you said is
put it together and put it there.
Dealers do not agree on anything typically because we've kind of been pitted against each other in this competitive structure from manufacturers all the way down. It's been dog eat dog, undersell, cut the other guy, kill him if you can, whatever. We honestly don't even have a body of dealers in this country, like an organization. What great industry does not have a trade organization of any sort designed for professionals to be bound in this special way that you only can be, not by an organization like a union to make money, but like a real organization to represent the interests of a trade. We have no real trade organization. The closest thing we have are conventions, like the Summit and Mint Collective and these things, but that's not. Dealers have never been able to agree is why we don't have that. No one is willing to sacrifice and say, I'm going to start this. Like I'm starting in the next 6 months, I'm going to announce the Baseball Card Hall of Fame. We are going to sponsor the Trading Card Hall of Fame. We're going to do it for real. Not like the National has a Hall of Fame, but we think there's a lot of people who have not been recognized over the years that need to be. And we want to give people an incentive to be motivated to be a world changer and to be a person on the wall who they say, that guy changed the hobby world. And we think by organizing something like that, it would work. Someone needs to do that with this trade organization to say, dealers, you are part of a special group. You've given your whole life or part of your life for this industry. Now, let's together, like on Mary Tyler Moore, and I remember the last episode, they all moved across the room hugging. Like, we move together, and we make progress together. Instead of, I'm going to try to get ahead of the other guy by being, and yes, we're showing individual creativity that's great.
Right.
But how come me and the other manufacturers are not all at a table together, collectively, adding to the world of the hobby together collectively? Never going to happen.
That's
but
how
God,
you 10X
how amazing would it be?
That's how you 10X it.
And you know what? That's why, given the right opportunities, I am looking forward to working with fellow manufacturers that have the same kind of vision. I want to work with these companies because together we can make a much bigger impact than taking each other's legs out.
I totally agree. I 100% agree. I've got a lot to say on that topic because as one of the leading content creators in the hobby, it's really interesting how certain companies have really embraced us, have tried to partner with us to find ways to create even more interesting, compelling content and grow the hobby. And other companies have completely shut us out, don't want us to have access to anything, don't want to help us out, want to kind of own their own content, even though they do a really poor job of it and it gets very little viewership. And I look at them and I'm like, how about we collaborate? And this is true. I mean, this is true with some of the manufacturers. This is another episode, but it's the same mindset. It's why can't the content creators get together with the companies and figure out ways to, how do we gain more exposure for everybody? How do we bring all of this up a level so that we're showing the world the greatest image possible of all the stuff that's happening in the hobby?
And the challenge for you and other content creators is, how do we have these things but not sacrifice the accountability and the other valuable things that content creators bring? Because even though I've had arguments with certain content creators over time, at the end of the day, if I make a mistake, whoever it is that points out my mistake, as long as it's somewhat respectful, honestly, I deserve to be called to the rug for it. And I think that's the challenge is, I don't want to see content creators bought and paid for. And that's the challenge is a manufacturer, a lot of them, when they open the door to you, that basically means don't talk about this autograph card that we don't think is real or this or whatever. They don't want you talking about those things. They think by cooperating with you, you're bought and paid for. And that's the big challenge for content is how do we establish a great relationship where we're really building the industry by working together. But at the same time, we understand and respect each of our roles in the business. and that there's going to be some things we don't share because it's part of our master plan. And there's going to be some things you're not willing to sacrifice because you're still a hobby journalist in many ways, and you got to call it like you see it.
Yep.
And again, there's times on Sports Card Investor where I've heard them say they're not big fans of unlicensed cards. But I'm sitting here because we're trying to grow a business. We're trying to grow an industry. And while there may be people who don't see the vision yet, I just got to put my head down and do it because I know I'm right. I know it. If I really believe that, it doesn't matter what you or what these other people say. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't care. Even the negative people, I don't care.
Yeah.
I've got to put my head down and do it. And guess what? A lot of those negative people are coming around.
Yeah.
Because they see that my vision's real. I'm a good guy. It's all legit. I'm not one of these people they criticize all the time. Their images are wrong. And I think that's a tough challenge for people in your position is how do you work? But again, just because it's challenging doesn't mean we can't do it.
Sure.
It just means two people have to both come in with the right mindset. We're here to grow the addressable market, to educate people, because long term, if we don't educate, we're going to eliminate.
Yep.
Because they're going to get burned out, make bad choices and not do well and struggle or feel like they didn't invest their money or they didn't get the enjoyment out of what they spent the way they should. And I think that's the key is we're not coming in here with the same mindset working together. It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Hopefully companies, and this Fanatics will be the start, hopefully people will come in and say, okay, we have to work together. Whether we want to or not, we have to.
Yep.
Because it's the future of the business, like it or not.
Yeah, no, I definitely hope so. So you've got it now on the topic of Leaf, unlicensed cards. Let's go there for a minute. Tell me, the audience is probably generally familiar with your products, but make the case for unlicensed cards because you've said, you're right, at times on the Sports Card Investor channel, I wouldn't say we've been critical of it. I don't think we're critical of it.
Fans.
But we're not huge fans of it, and I'll speak honestly to it. From an investment standpoint, I tend to look at licensed products. I tend to want licensed products, right? From a collector standpoint, I think there can be a lot of value in unlicensed.
For sure.
You bring lower price points often for products. People get more out of a Leaf box than they get out of any other type of box because you don't have to pay for the licensing. So you can put more autos in there. You can put more interesting cards. You can put more numbered parallels. You don't have to pay for the licensing. So you can produce it at a lower price point. And so that gets passed on to the consumer with the way of more stuff, which in many cases is good. But what do you think, what do you think is the argument for why unlicensed will continue to grow in popularity and really be, up there with licensed in terms of importance in the trading card world?
I mean, what I can tell you, because I know this for a fact, the growth in sales and profitability for the companies in the unlicensed space far exceeds the three biggest companies in the business. Our sales increase and our EBITDA the last 4 years, we blow these guys away in terms of growth. No brainer. That's because there's changing consumer behavior. The case for player license, I actually don't call it unlicensed. It's player licensed.
Yeah.
Unlicensed, when you go on eBay and you see a card someone made in their garage,
right, that they had
without the player's
no right
permission,
to do.
they put the logo on there without permission, whatever it is. We make player license.
Okay.
Every person we make cards up, with the exception of some of our newsflash cards, which are First Amendment driven and fair use, those things. All of our products that are packaged are player licensed. So, no different than Panini Baseball.
Yeah, it's right. So you have the permission from the player to put them on a card, but you don't have the permission from the team. You don't have the logo or the sports league, right?
Legally, I will say we may not have to have their permission. We may be allowed to do that without their permission. And Upper Deck had a great legal case. We're not a legal show, but Upper Deck had a great legal case that outlined why. But we try to cooperate and be friendly and not ruffle feathers any more than we have to. We try to ruffle minimal feathers. But the case for player license is a couple. Number one, if you're buying sealed products, no-brainer. The ROI or the return when you open a box from a value-only standpoint is double or triple a licensed product. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to like that. It's a fact. We can go open 100 grand worth of Leaf and 100 grand worth of any other company, and you will have more money when you sell my cards than when you sell the others. It's a fact. But it's not just about money. If you collect autographs, you're getting the ink of the best players in the world. We have many players other companies can't get. You may have noticed there's no Giannis autographs in Panini, but I got them. There's no Jaw autographs. They have them exclusive. There's no autographs in their product. I've got them. There's a lot of players that I get that no one else can get. There's celebrities I get that no one's ever going to get. I just signed Clint Eastwood. I mean, no one's getting these people to sign. Britney Spears, J-Lo, Donald Trump. Like, no one's getting these people to sign. I get them to sign. So clearly, we're offering a collector / someone who wants to see the product itself. Forget investment for a second. Clearly, we provide a value that's extraordinary. Number two, if you're a pure investor, not a card collector, I think about it like I think of, when I say high priced, I'm not talking about overall valuation. I'm talking about the actual price of the stock. There are guys that love buying these stocks that are $1,200, $1,500 a share because of the way they behave. And there's also guys that love buying $5 stocks because of the way they behave. Shohei Ohtani, 2018 Leaf Trinity autograph. Number to 25 sold on, or number to 5 sold on pre-war 6 weeks ago for $8,000. That is a player licensed, showing him in his Japanese jersey, card from Leaf that sold for $8,000. We've had Mahomes sell for $5,000, $10,000. This isn't like the old days. This isn't press pass wildcard stage like these other companies. Like, our products are treated like licensed products in many respects. So what I would argue is, if you can't see, and what's funny is you look at a lot of licensed cards, you still can't see the logo.
Right.
Depending on the way the player's
Right.
facing or standing at the plate, when he's got his hands across his chest to bat, half the time you can't even see the logos anyway.
Right.
So honestly, what is that card different from my card for?
Right.
I can put the city name on the front or the team name on the front. It's descriptive. So, like, I think we've just been brainwashed into thinking licensed. And again, I would argue that most wise investors have figured out that when the mobs are fighting over assets is the time you should be a supplier of the asset, not a consumer of the asset. Mm-hmm. You should be looking for out of favor, not out of favor for a good reason, but out of favor for a reason that doesn't make a lot of sense or just it's being ignored. I just can tell you most of my great investments were buying 1980s cards when shiny stuff went through the roof. You look at my old Twitter account, you look at old posts, I bought every single Jerry Rice 86 Topps PSA 8 off eBay at $30 to $60. They're $200 now. They got up to $400 at one point. That was a good buy. I was buying paper when everyone was buying shiny.
Yeah.
Now no one wants, I don't know what they want now. They only want 101s and like pop threes and pop matters more than anything. I saw you just crossed over a card because pop's a consideration now. You know, so like, there's no reason not to consider being a contrarian. The value proposition is extraordinary because, again, on Jackson Holiday, you can have 10 of my autograph, or you can have 1 or 8 of my autograph, or 1 Bowman Chrome. If you think 40 years from now that 1 Bowman Chrome autograph is going to be worth more than 40 Leaf autographs, you're nuts. Because 40 ink is better than 1 ink. And over time, I'm telling you right now, there'll be way more liquidity for a Jackson Holiday at our price points versus the other price point. It's mispriced assets. A lot of times assets are mispriced, and we confuse that for lack of interest instead of lack of understanding or lack of open-mindedness. So, again, go search any of these databases and look at the performance of the best players. And you will see Leaf stuff has gone up on a percentage basis more than the licensed products. But again, people only look at the day it comes out. Our Desmond Ritter is $50 and Panini's is $120. Oh, well, Panini's much better. Is it? Because GameStop was $400 a share. Was that better because it was $400 a share and the valuation had gone up 100%? No. It just means the valuation went up 100% and was $400 a share.
Right.
And so, again, the same way I talk about this industry, we have to be open-minded and progressive. The world's changing. There will be a day where every company's unlicensed except Fanatics. Now, who knows what will happen with that, if there'll be legal issues or what, but that's where it looks like it's going. Are you telling me people will not collect anything else or will not invest in anything else? People here are smart enough, and they're already starting to buy mispriced assets. And I like it. We're a mispriced asset. I'm okay with that. I'd rather be mispriced the way I am than the other way.
Yeah.
Than where I'm selling for more than licensed. I would not like that for investors. I think the assets we make are very intriguing at these levels. And again, if you're scared to buy something because it's out of favor, that's fine. If you're scared to buy it because it's mispriced too cheap, that's fine too, I guess. But I think I've been around long enough. I've got to buy mispriced. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
I'll buy Panini cards. I'll buy Fanatics cards. I'll buy whatever. If it's a mispriced asset, I want in.
It's a compelling case. It's a compelling case, and I appreciate you sharing the case. It's definitely a compelling case. You're right. It's a very compelling case.
Worst case, you got 40. If you bust, you got 40 Jackson autographs instead of 1.
Yeah.
Let's think of a bad prospect. Kevin Maiton. He's worthless.
Sure.
Would you rather have 1 Bowman Chrome Maiton or 40 Leaf Maitons?
Sure.
They're only worth $1 a piece. You might as well have 40.
Right. You're right.
So there is a residual floor on 40 autographs versus 1.
All right, I know you got to get you out of here in just a minute. You got to get back over there. Last question for you. I'm curious, the future of Leaf. So at the beginning, you were talking about you getting into kind of interesting areas of cards, areas people haven't gone into before, pickleball and, pop culture. And you just recently talked about...
We got the bowling license. We're the only licensed bowling company.
So is that... where do you see the focus being the next few years? Is it going wider? Is it going more into pop culture and other sports and kind of the tertiary things? Or is it continuing to compete in the main sports categories on the unlicensed front?
The way I see it is Fanatics is going to be the licensee for everything eventually. And the leader in everything else is going to be Leaf. Because we're not going to fight these fights trying to take licenses. We're not going to do that. We're going to focus on what we do well, which is wildly creative, well-priced assets, content, collectibles. We're going to focus on that, and we believe that by getting in the trenches now, we just got the license for Muhammad Ali, Elvis, and Marilyn Monroe. We're working on these other, so we're adding things to our portfolio because we realize that with all the effort that's being put into these 3 sports, because hockey's really not very strong, with the 3 major sports, there's massive opportunity somewhere else. We see mispriced assets in licensing, where the licenses are too cheap because no one cares, but they should. So we're going to be everything else. And we'll be in the same space as they are because collectors need an alternative.
Sure.
People who want to buy cards need to have a choice. If you don't, then you do have an antitrust issue. So we're going to be very solid there. But we're going to be the leader everywhere else. Yeah. And we will. We already have surpassed one of the big 3 in many areas. And we just took a license that one of the other big 3 really wanted. We beat them. So, things are changing. And again, will we ever team up with one of our competitors? Time will tell. But we're open-minded to being positive with them, partners with them, anything. Because we know that long-term, together, the sum of the parts is less than the whole. But together, we're worth more than we are individually.
I love
a lot of times, the individuals are worth more, and we're less productive together. But in this case, together, 1 + 1 is 2.4.
I love the mindset.
And it can be 3.
Yeah.
But right now, it's 2.4. But we can work together and get it to 3.
Right. I love the mindset.
Got it.
Brian, this has been a pleasure,
Just
man.
like you, we're trying to make changes and educate, and you're doing great work. We love it. You know I'm a big fan and a big supporter. And again, I'm going to win your guys over on player licensed. I'm going to win them over because that's my job.
I'm going to have them watch this.
Now, once I win them over, though, I have to quit the industry because there's some of the, I think, I don't know which one of your guys is the most stubborn on it, but one of them, when I win them over, I'm going to quit because I've done my job. Okay. I've won over the most stout opponents of what I do.
There you go.
We got it. We got a challenge coming out of the National.
The bar is set.
Next time we're going to do Pack Wars because I've always wanted you to do Pack Wars. That looks so fun.
We'll do another one of these
that next
for
time.
sure. That would be a lot of fun.
A pleasure. Great to be with you. And
Thank you, Brian.
We love talking with you.
Thank you. And for everybody out there, appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget, you can listen to full episodes of the Geoff Wilson Show like this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for the audio version, and then, of course, on YouTube for the full video version as well. It's the Geoff Wilson Show. And follow It's Geoff Wilson on social for short clips from all the episodes. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time. Take care.